Ever noticed subtle changes in your partner and wondered if something deeper is going on? Sometimes women unintentionally reveal signs before crossing emotional or physical boundaries. Today, we're breaking down the secret moves women make before cheating, and understanding these signs could save your relationship from heartbreak. Emotional distance is often the earliest and most subtle sign that a woman may be disengaging from a relationship. It does not appear overnight. Rather, it develops gradually and can be easy to overlook if one is not paying close attention. Emotional distance is characterized by a reduction in meaningful conversations, a lack of openness about feelings, and a sense that the emotional connection that once existed is weakening. In many cases, the partner may notice that she is no longer sharing her thoughts or experiences as freely as before. Small details like not recounting her day, avoiding discussions about future plans, or becoming indifferent to your opinions are indicators of a growing emotional gap. This distance often manifests through avoidance behaviors. A woman who is starting to emotionally withdraw may physically be present but mentally disengaged. She may be in the same room but not actively participating in conversations or family interactions. The tone of her responses may become neutral or curt, reflecting a desire to limit emotional investment. In some cases, she may redirect conversations to superficial topics or avoid emotionally charged discussions altogether. This detachment is rarely malicious. It usually reflects an internal struggle, dissatisfaction, or unmet emotional needs that she has not communicated. Changes in behavior accompany emotional distance. Activities that were once shared may no longer hold the same appeal, and she may start prioritizing time alone or with friends over time spent with her partner. She may also seem less responsive to gestures of affection or expressions of care. Simple acts such as texting back late, not initiating conversations, or appearing disinterested during shared activities can signal a gradual withdrawal. These changes are subtle and can be mistaken for stress, fatigue, or preoccupation with work, which is why they often go unnoticed in the early stages. Another aspect of emotional distance is a growing reluctance to express vulnerability. A woman who once openly shared her fears, dreams, or frustrations may begin to withhold these feelings. She may appear emotionally closed off, guarded, or defensive when personal topics arise. This shift can be accompanied by increased irritability or impatience when asked about her emotional state, further reinforcing the sense of separation. Emotional openness is a cornerstone of intimate relationships, and its absence can create a silent barrier between partners. The impact of emotional distance on a relationship is significant. Partners may feel confused, frustrated, or rejected, often interpreting withdrawal as disinterest or lack of love. Attempts to reconnect may be met with avoidance or minimal engagement, leading to miscommunication and tension. Emotional distance can create a feedback loop, where the partner's concern or frustration inadvertently pushes the woman further into withdrawal. It is important to recognize that this pattern is usually not about the other person's worthiness, but rather reflects internal emotional dynamics and unresolved issues. Subtle cues often accompany emotional distance, such as decreased eye contact, limited physical affection, or a lack of enthusiasm for joint plans. She may appear preoccupied, distracted, or disconnected even in moments of closeness. These behavioral signals, when observed consistently, indicate that the emotional bond is weakening. Emotional distance can also manifest as a preference for privacy, spending more time on individual activities, or showing heightened sensitivity to criticism. These behaviors serve as protective mechanisms, allowing her to emotionally detach without overt conflict. Identifying emotional distance early requires careful observation and self-awareness. It is important to differentiate between temporary disengagement due to stress or external pressures and a sustained pattern that signals deeper relational issues. Open and non-confrontational communication is essential in addressing these changes, as it provides an opportunity for both partners to explore underlying needs and concerns. Emotional distance is a gradual process, and recognizing its early signs can help in understanding the trajectory of the relationship. Behavioral changes are often one of the most noticeable indicators that a woman may be experiencing shifts in her emotional engagement within a relationship. Unlike emotional distance, which can be subtle and internal, behavioral changes are external and observable, making them easier for a partner to detect if they are attentive. These changes are often gradual but consistent, manifesting in various aspects of daily life, such as routines, personal habits, appearance, and interests. What makes these shifts significant is that they often signal an underlying dissatisfaction, emotional restlessness, or a search for stimulation outside the current relationship. One of the first areas where behavioral changes can be observed is in daily routines. A woman who begins to act differently from her established patterns may be attempting to carve out space for herself or for someone else. She may alter her schedule, spend more time outside the home, or suddenly take up new hobbies or interests that were previously unimportant. These adjustments may seem innocuous on the surface, but when combined with other subtle changes, they can indicate a deeper shift in priorities. Consistent deviations from long-standing routines can suggest that her focus and energy are being redirected away from the relationship. Appearance and grooming habits also provide clear insights into behavioral changes. Women may start dressing differently, experimenting with new styles, or paying more attention to physical appearance in ways that differ from their usual patterns. This is not necessarily about vanity. It often reflects a desire for attention, validation, or renewed attraction, which can sometimes indicate that she is seeking affirmation outside of the relationship. A sudden shift in self-presentation may also correlate with changes in social behavior, such as increased social outings or interest in new social circles, which further underscores a transformation in lifestyle. Another common behavioral change is in social interactions and communication patterns. She may begin to spend more time with certain friends or acquaintances, attend events without her partner, or exhibit enthusiasm for activities that previously held little appeal. At the same time, she may reduce participation in joint activities or seem less interested in shared experiences. This change in behavior often creates a noticeable gap between past patterns and present actions, signaling a potential reorientation of priorities and interests. Behavioral changes are also reflected in communication habits. She may become less responsive to calls or messages, take longer to reply, or show less engagement in conversations that were once routine. Conversely, she may engage more actively on social media, sometimes posting content that appears deliberately curated for attention. The combination of reduced availability and increased social visibility can indicate a growing need for external validation, which is often linked to dissatisfaction or unmet emotional needs within the relationship. Additionally, subtle behavioral shifts can be seen in body language and nonverbal cues. A woman who is experiencing internal conflict or exploring new emotional connections may display less warmth, fewer gestures of affection, or diminished enthusiasm during interactions. She may seem preoccupied, distracted, or emotionally distant even when physically present. These nonverbal indicators are often consistent with behavioral changes, reinforcing the sense of withdrawal or redirection of attention. Behavioral changes are not always about infidelity. They can also reflect personal growth, stress, or evolving interests. However, when these changes appear suddenly, are paired with emotional distance, and persist over time, they can serve as an early warning sign that attention and energy are being diverted. Recognizing these patterns requires careful observation, empathy, and awareness of baseline behaviors, as small shifts often provide the first clues to underlying relational challenges. Secretive communication is a behavioral pattern that often emerges subtly but can be a significant indicator of relational disengagement. It is characterized by a deliberate effort to withhold information, conceal interactions, or limit transparency in communication channels. In the context of relationships, secretive communication can manifest in multiple ways, including changes in phone habits, email correspondence, social media behavior, or even in-person interactions. While not every instance of secretive communication points to infidelity, it often reflects a growing desire for privacy that goes beyond normal boundaries, signaling a potential disconnect. One of the earliest signs of secretive communication is increased protection of personal devices. A woman may suddenly begin keeping her phone within reach at all times, activating passwords she did not use before, or taking calls in private spaces. She may also delete messages frequently, clear call histories, or use applications that provide more privacy and prevent monitoring. These changes are often subtle but consistent, representing a shift from shared openness to guarded behavior. In long-term relationships, partners often have established norms of communication transparency, so any deviation from these norms is worth noticing. Another common form of secretive communication is a change in social media habits. She may become more selective about friend lists, restrict certain posts from being viewed, or engage more actively in private conversations online. These behaviors may include sudden participation in platforms or groups that were previously ignored, as well as increased interactions with specific individuals. While digital activity alone is not proof of betrayal, it reflects a growing need to create private spaces for communication that are not accessible to the partner, often serving as a psychological buffer for actions or thoughts she is not yet ready to share. Secretive communication also extends to conversational patterns in daily life. A woman may begin providing vague or incomplete answers to questions about her day, her plans, or her interactions. She might deflect inquiries, change topics quickly, or appear evasive when discussing personal matters. These behaviors can create a sense of emotional distance, even if she is physically present, and can generate feelings of confusion or mistrust in the partner. Over time, these patterns can escalate, leading to a cycle where the partner becomes increasingly inquisitive and she responds with further guardedness. In some cases, secretive communication is paired with subtle manipulation or selective disclosure. She may choose to share only certain aspects of her day or interactions, presenting a curated version of reality. This behavior serves to control the narrative and maintain a sense of privacy, while limiting the partner's ability to fully understand her experiences or intentions. Such selective communication can also be accompanied by heightened defensiveness when questioned, which can further signal that she is guarding aspects of her life more carefully than before. Emotional cues often accompany secretive communication. A woman engaging in this behavior may exhibit signs of guilt, anxiety, or internal conflict. She may avoid eye contact during certain conversations, appear distracted, or demonstrate increased irritability when personal topics are raised. These nonverbal indicators often reinforce the sense that communication is no longer fully open or honest, creating a subtle but tangible gap in relational transparency. It is important to note that secretive communication does not automatically indicate infidelity. There are multiple reasons someone may seek privacy, including stress, personal growth, or a need for independence. However, when these behaviors emerge alongside other signs, such as emotional distance and behavioral changes, they can be early warning signals of a shifting relational dynamic. Recognizing and addressing these patterns requires careful observation, non-confrontational dialogue, and empathy, as the underlying motives may be complex and multifaceted. Reduced intimacy is often one of the clearest behavioral signs that a woman may be emotionally withdrawing from a relationship. Intimacy in a healthy relationship encompasses not only physical closeness, but also emotional and psychological connection. When intimacy begins to wane, it can manifest in subtle ways that may be easy to overlook, particularly if one attributes changes to stress, fatigue, or external pressures. However, a consistent reduction in emotional or physical closeness often reflects deeper relational or personal dissatisfaction that warrants attention. Physical intimacy is frequently the most noticeable aspect affected. A woman may begin to avoid sexual interactions or physical touch, which can include everything from holding hands to affectionate gestures. She might decline intimacy more often, appear disinterested during physical closeness, or seem distracted or disengaged when attempts are made. These changes are rarely abrupt. They usually develop gradually, with small shifts in responsiveness that accumulate over time. The lack of physical affection is not always about desire alone, but is often linked to emotional disconnection and growing distance within the relationship. Emotional intimacy often declines alongside physical intimacy. Women may become less expressive about their feelings, stop sharing personal experiences, or avoid discussing emotional topics. Where once she might have confided in her partner about daily challenges, dreams, or fears, she may now remain reserved, providing only superficial updates. This withdrawal from emotional sharing creates a barrier that reduces relational closeness, leaving the partner feeling disconnected and uncertain. Emotional distance often precedes or accompanies reduced physical intimacy, signaling an overall retreat from the partnership. Changes in communication patterns also reflect reduced intimacy. Conversations may become transactional, focused on logistics rather than meaningful connection. She may respond in short sentences, avoid eye contact, or show a lack of engagement in discussions. Even casual interactions may feel strained as the warmth and attentiveness that once characterized the relationship diminish. These communication patterns reinforce the sense of disconnection and can leave the partner questioning the state of the relationship, creating subtle tension and unease. Behavioral cues beyond direct interactions also indicate reduced intimacy. A woman may spend more time alone, engage in individual activities that do not include her partner, or express preferences for personal space over shared time. While independence is healthy in any relationship, a sudden or consistent shift towards solitary routines, particularly when paired with emotional withdrawal, often signifies a broader disengagement. She may also show less interest in planning shared experiences or participating in joint activities, further highlighting the decrease in relational closeness. Psychological and emotional factors often contribute to reduced intimacy. Internal conflict, dissatisfaction, or unmet emotional needs can manifest as withdrawal from closeness. She may feel disconnected, unappreciated, or unfulfilled, leading to a subconscious or conscious decision to create emotional and physical space. In some cases, reduced intimacy may be an early signal of attraction towards someone outside the relationship, though it can also indicate broader personal struggles or relational dynamics that need attention. Subtle nonverbal cues often accompany reduced intimacy. She may avoid prolonged eye contact, maintain physical distance, or display closed-off body language. These indicators, though quiet, speak volumes about her emotional state and level of engagement in the relationship. The combination of physical avoidance, decreased emotional sharing, and altered communication patterns creates a tangible sense of separation that can be felt even without overt acknowledgement. Recognizing the signs of reduced intimacy requires careful observation and sensitivity. Partners may misinterpret temporary lapses as normal fluctuations, yet persistent patterns often reveal deeper relational issues. Attention to these cues, paired with empathetic inquiry and open dialogue, is essential in understanding the underlying causes of intimacy decline and addressing relational needs proactively. Excuses and deflections are subtle yet powerful behavioral indicators that a woman may be emotionally disengaging from a relationship. These behaviors often serve as a mechanism to avoid accountability, difficult conversations, or uncomfortable truths. In many cases, excuses and deflections do not appear suddenly. They gradually increase over time, creating patterns that shift the relational dynamics. They are frequently linked to a desire to protect personal space, maintain autonomy, or conceal activities and emotions that are not being openly shared. One of the most noticeable manifestations of this behavior is the frequent use of excuses to avoid spending time together. She may claim to be busy with work, errands, or personal tasks, often at times when prior commitments to the partner existed. While occasional scheduling conflicts are normal, a consistent pattern of last-minute cancellations, prolonged absences, or reluctance to engage in shared activities can signal avoidance. These excuses may seem reasonable on the surface, but when paired with other subtle changes, they often indicate a conscious or subconscious effort to create distance within the relationship. Deflection is another key aspect of this behavior. When questioned about whereabouts, feelings, or actions, she may respond by redirecting the conversation to unrelated topics, making light of the question, or focusing on the partner's behavior instead of addressing her own. This technique serves as a protective mechanism, allowing her to avoid emotional confrontation while maintaining control over the interaction. Deflections can also manifest as sarcasm, humor, or irritation in response to inquiries, further discouraging honest dialogue and reinforcing relational distance. Excuses and deflections are often intertwined with subtle behavioral cues. For example, she may become increasingly vague about her schedule, provide inconsistent explanations for her activities, or change the details of stories when recounting them. These inconsistencies can create a sense of uncertainty, leaving the partner feeling confused or suspicious. While not every instance of such behavior is indicative of infidelity, the repeated use of excuses and evasive responses can be a sign that emotional transparency is diminishing. Psychologically, these behaviors often reflect internal conflict. A woman may feel torn between loyalty to her partner and a desire for independence, attention, or validation elsewhere. Excuses and deflections allow her to navigate these conflicting emotions without immediate confrontation, creating a buffer between her actions and the partner's awareness. The emotional energy required to sustain these patterns can also contribute to increased irritability, defensiveness, or withdrawal, further reinforcing the cycle of relational disengagement. Another aspect to consider is the timing and context of these behaviors. Excuses often arise in situations where closeness or intimacy is expected. For instance, she may avoid conversations about relationship issues, deflect discussions about shared future plans, or resist spending quality time during weekends or vacations. The strategic avoidance of emotionally significant moments can be particularly telling, as it signals a prioritization of personal space or secrecy over relational engagement. Communication patterns are also affected by excuses and deflections. She may answer questions with minimal detail, respond late to messages, or dismiss inquiries as trivial. These patterns subtly shift the balance of power within the relationship, as the partner may feel compelled to navigate the lack of clarity while respecting boundaries that are intentionally or subconsciously being established. Over time, this can lead to frustration, tension, and a sense of emotional distance. Excuses and deflections can sometimes be mistaken for normal behavior or temporary stress responses. However, consistent repetition, paired with other behavioral indicators such as emotional withdrawal, secrecy, and reduced intimacy, provides a clearer picture of relational disengagement. Awareness of these patterns allows for early recognition of issues and creates an opportunity to address underlying emotional or relational needs. Mood swings and irritability are often subtle yet powerful indicators that a woman may be experiencing internal conflict or emotional dissatisfaction within a relationship. Unlike overt behaviors such as secrecy or avoidance, these signs manifest through fluctuations in emotional responses, often leaving the partner uncertain about the underlying causes. Mood swings can vary in intensity, frequency, and duration, and may appear triggered by minor incidents that previously would have been insignificant. Observing these patterns carefully can provide valuable insight into her emotional state and the dynamics of the relationship. One of the most common expressions of mood swings is abrupt changes in emotional tone. A woman may transition quickly from being cheerful and affectionate to distant, silent, or irritable over seemingly minor events. These fluctuations can be confusing for a partner, as the shift may appear disproportionate to the trigger. Emotional volatility often signals internal stress or dissatisfaction, which may be linked to unmet needs, unresolved conflicts, or growing disconnection within the relationship. While mood swings are a natural part of human behavior, consistent patterns of sudden irritability in relational contexts warrant attention. Irritability often accompanies mood swings and serves as a mechanism to create distance or protect personal space. A woman may react defensively or with impatience when questioned about her day, feelings, or actions. Minor inconveniences, repeated questions, or simple requests may provoke disproportionate responses, reflecting a heightened sensitivity to perceived intrusion. These reactions can discourage open communication and subtly reinforce emotional withdrawal, as the partner may hesitate to initiate conversations or address concerns for fear of triggering negative responses. Mood swings and irritability can also manifest in nonverbal ways. Facial expressions, body language, and tone of voice often shift in alignment with her emotional state. She may avoid eye contact, cross her arms defensively, or display signs of tension such as frowning, sighing, or pacing. These cues are significant because they provide insight into emotions that may not be verbally expressed. When these nonverbal signals occur consistently alongside emotional outbursts, they suggest a deeper level of internal unrest rather than isolated frustration. Another factor to consider is the relational context of these mood shifts. Mood swings often become more pronounced during moments when closeness or vulnerability is expected, such as discussions about the relationship, future planning, or shared responsibilities. In these situations, irritability may serve as a defensive response to avoid confronting issues or revealing feelings that she is not ready to disclose. This behavior effectively creates a barrier that protects her emotional space while maintaining a degree of control over interactions with her partner. Psychologically, mood swings and irritability can be linked to stress, internal conflict, or unmet emotional needs. They may reflect dissatisfaction, insecurity, or guilt that is not being openly communicated. The fluctuations in emotional responses often indicate a struggle to balance personal desires with relational expectations, creating tension that surfaces in unpredictable ways. Understanding these underlying factors is essential in interpreting the significance of mood changes and responding with empathy rather than judgment. Patterns of mood swings and irritability are often compounded by other behavioral indicators, such as reduced intimacy, secrecy, and excuses. When these signs appear together, they paint a more comprehensive picture of emotional withdrawal and relational strain. The interplay of these behaviors can create a cycle where frustration from one partner fuels defensive reactions from the other, amplifying emotional volatility and further distancing the individuals involved. Monitoring and understanding mood swings and irritability requires careful observation and sensitivity. It is important to differentiate between temporary emotional reactions such as stress from work or personal issues and persistent patterns that reflect relational or internal dissatisfaction. Recognizing these signs early allows for opportunities to address underlying concerns, facilitate open dialogue, and explore strategies for emotional reconnection.